pleasure indeed to welcome you to this very special, repackaged Telecoms Consumer Parliament, the second in the series of repackaged telecom parliaments. The theme for today's discussion is data service delivery, the way forward. I am sure that we all appreciate the coming of data into our lives, the same way we embraced telephony 13 years ago. We all now sit on our computers. Nobody does letter writing by longhand anymore. Everyone uses email. You shop, you send messages, you chat, and we have all imbibed it all like it's always been a part of our lives. But there are issues connected with this new thing that we have all imbibed. So we are gathered today to look at how to improve those services. Let's kick this off immediately, and we shall do that by asking the EVC of the Communications Commission to give us his opening remarks. Engineer Eugene Jua.
It is my pleasure to welcome you to the second edition of the repackaged Telecoms Consumer Parliament here in Lagos. The Telecoms Consumer Parliament is one of the initiatives of the Nigerian Communications Commission established to provide a platform for key stakeholders to meet and address consumer-related issues. The Nigerian Communications Commission, in its pursuit of carrying out one of its mandates to the stakeholders, that is the mandate of protecting, informing, and enlightening, have requested all stakeholders in the telecom industry to gather here today to discuss on strategies that will ensure good service delivery to all in the industry. In this regard, Internet and broadband have been globally acknowledged as the foundation of the nation's transformation to a knowledge-based economy. The path to an efficient broadband service in Nigeria has been a long and difficult one. Internet connectivity has come a long way from a single international submarine cable with 340 gigabits per second total capacity installed in 2001, that is SAT3, to 4 cable systems with international bandwidth capacity of over 9 terabytes bits per second in 2012. Despite progress made, Nigeria is still a far cry from achieving what is considered global broadband standards, even among other developing countries. In fact, it has become more worrisome the kind of services most service providers sell to their subscribers, all in the name of 3G, while some even claim to have 4G. But really, impact-wise, nothing has changed in data services. Consumer experience is not much to write home about. In view of the foregoing, the Commission has taken steps towards realizing effective deployment of broadband services in Nigeria. The world now is a global village, and Nigeria cannot afford to be improperly integrated into it. This integration could be better achieved not only through voice, but also through effective data service delivery. In conclusion, I wish you all successful deliberation, and I look forward to your invaluable contributions to the issues at hand. It is my wish, therefore, that we will carefully consider and address these challenges here. All service providers will be given opportunity to comment on outlined complaints below and offer workable plans on how to resolve them. The general complaints are: 1. Inability to browse. 2. Abnormal depletion of data. 3. Unsuccessful data renewal. 4. Unauthorized service renewal. On this note, I once again welcome you all and wish this gathering fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, particularly to the executive leadership and board of the NCC, and indeed all our other stakeholders here. Very quickly, I will try and give a quick recap to the issues that were brought up at the last Consumer Parliament. Thankfully, Mrs. Bayi has, reminded us of the topical issues, and if I recall correctly, the problems we had. One, there was a lot of discourse around the issue of unsolicited text messages. I think that between that time and this time, working with the NCC, operators, or at least MTN, has put in place a lot more measures to tackle the menace of unsolicited SMSs. The problem hasn't gone away 100%, but I dare say that, one, in terms of people receiving those SMSs at unholy hours, that problem has gone away. We also realize that as we progress towards the elections in 2015, I think that some campaigning has started electronically, and there will be pressure, particularly on the bulk SMS providers, both locally and offshore, in terms of terminating their messages. We are working with the registered and approved vendors to ensure that they stick to the rules that have been stipulated by the NCC. So I dare say with a fair amount of confidence that this problem is by and large behind us. There was also a lot of discourse around depleting credits. I think depleting credits both for voice and for data. The data one, I'm sure we will be discussing in depth later on this afternoon. But the problem we have is that a lot of us have all these really nice smartphones, all the iPhones, the Samsung telephones, and even I am still struggling with switching off a lot of the a lot of the background activities that consume my data. So I find that with a lot of the applications that come bundled with the phones and a lot of the applications that we inadvertently or on purpose download, a lot of them are doing a lot of things all the time. They're updating, they're doing all sorts of things, they're using your location, they're giving feedback to the developers of the apps, and all these things are consuming data. So a lot of customer education is being done to address this. We've also started what we call data fairs, and I think, this is coming on the back of what Mrs. Bayi said. This is helping us sensitize and educate our customers, letting them know what to do, particularly, one, when they're abroad, two, when they don't want to subscribe to some of these applications that consume data. We're helping people to switch off those things, and also invariably letting people use their smartphones in a more smarter way. So again, I think we're making significant progress regarding the issue of credit. I think another area where we've made a lot of progress since the last time is even where the credit has been depleted, the process for returning that credit is much, much better now, is much, much quicker. Even today, I've had somebody give me that feedback that, they've seen a lot of improvement. We've done a lot of empowerment on the front line with our first responders. So they have a lot more power now, they're given a lot more responsibility, they're able to return the credit without further escalation. And I think that this has gone a long way in pleasing a lot of our customers. I think also at the last Consumer Parliament, people also complained about their data service, and I think some of the issues are some of the issues that have been discussed earlier on by the EVC and Mrs. Bai. I'm happy to say that we now roll over credit for data. So MTN subscribers, we have, and my customer relations orgas are here. If I say anything wrong, please correct me. But I dare say with every measure of confidence that we're now in a position whereby sometimes, depending on the bundle you are on, if you do not exhaust your data, we're allowing our customers to carry that data, I think, for as long as 3 months. So these are some of the things and lessons that have come from the last Consumer Parliament, and, we are seeing some improvement. Drop calls absolutely is a problem in the industry. I think that there's several factors for why we have drop calls. What is important is what we are doing to address the issue of drop calls. This we are combating several fold. One, from our own end, we are doing a lot of work to make sure that the network is available. We're building the capacity. And more recently, I'm sure that people have seen that the biggest problem we have with keeping the network up and ensuring, for instance, when you're driving in your car, your call does not drop, handover rates improve, is to ensure that we have availability in all our base stations across the length and breadth of Nigeria. I must commend the work that has been done by the NCC in the last 2 or 3 months, whereby the battle to make sites available to keep traffic, they have really picked up the gun, they've really picked it up, and I dare say today that the impunity with which a lot of agencies used to go and shut down base stations, we're beginning to see a drastic reduction. Thus, our availability time is up. We are also, to keep availability up also as a business, we have invited people who are perhaps better than us in terms of day-to-day operations, and we are seeing the benefit now. We're seeing that uptime is a lot more, it's getting better by the day, and is addressing the issues around calls dropping. Regarding customer care helplines, I think we continue to improve the capacity in that space, working with our partners in Nigeria. We are deploying, apart from the customer care centers where people can just walk into, we've gone beyond having one in every capital and one in every major city. We have really cascaded down, and we're using different models to run this across our different operations. We are also going the way of mobile. We are also looking at the fact that we're talking about going digital, everything we do. So we're investing a lot again in ensuring that people can have real-time access to our different platforms. We're doing a lot of education. We're putting those platforms in English, in Yoruba, in Hausa, in Pidgin English, in Igbo. We're encouraging people that you don't necessarily have to wait on 180. There are several other platforms that can help you and address those problems. We're working with the NCC to ensure that the primary cause for people coming to our call centers and people calling our call centers, we're working with the NCC to ensure that some of those services we can deliver over the air so that people, if, for instance, there's certain things that I don't really need to come to the shop to do. We're also working to ensure that a lot of the problems that people call us for, there are other platforms that can help resolve. The biggest problem we have with the call center is around the issues of access and access on time. And the primary reason for this is because the call center is free. I think the last thing here is on approved promotions. I think the NCC has also been very good at clamping down on operators who are running unapproved promotions. I think that, operators working, at least MTN working with the regulator, we are making progress, and I think Mrs. Bai is smiling. So hopefully we will get to a point where the And yes, just that reminds me, a lot of the promotions that came out of the last consumer parliament that people were talking about as unapproved promotions are not necessarily promotions that are being driven by telcos. These are promotions that other people are doing, and they are using the telecommunications platform. So these are promotions that people, Mr. X sends a soliciting SMS to a subscriber. It has absolutely nothing to do with the telco. We are essentially transmission. So we're the road that everybody is driving on. But again, we're working with the Commission to ensure that our networks are not used for illegal or unapproved promotions. So with your permission, I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
For unsolicited text messages, we've implemented an anti-spam software on our network, which has been on for more than 3 years now. But like has been pointed out before, a whole lot of these SMSs also come from people outside the Airtel ecosystem. And for those ones, they drive on our road, as was mentioned before. These, we are working with some of the security agencies when we discover that there's fraud being committed from our network, and in most cases, the perpetrators are apprehended. For the other one of the option of opting out for unsolicited messages, Airtel also has a DND option, which is the do not disturb option, where customers opt in or out of getting messages. And for Airtel, the DND messages are also hosted on some of our self-care platforms, so that without having to call into the call center, you can actually go to some of our self-help platforms and just indicate that you don't want to receive any SMS, and then you won't receive any more. But there are exceptions to this, and these are service-related messages. So if there's going to be a service outage, everybody gets the message. So this is an exception. I'll quickly go down to the accessibility of contact centers. The last TCP was held in July, and between August and today, Airtel has employed 570 new agents who have been trained and have hit the floor of our call centers. And between now and the end of the year, we're also going to get 100 more. They are currently in training, and they're going to hit the call center. They're going to hit the floor before the end of the year, which will bring our total capacity to just about 1,800 agents. But like has been mentioned before, access to call center agents might not be the only option for the customers. So we're also giving the option of the self-care platforms, which include USSD, web chat, where you chat with a live agent, and also, of course, the working centers as well. For the drop calls, as we mentioned before, these are predominantly dependent on the availability of our sites, and we are very happy that we're receiving a whole lot of support from NCC in this regard, especially in the last 3 months. In addition to this, the security of our sites that was highlighted last time have already been outsourced to agencies, and we're also receiving support from government agencies, especially the Security and Defense Corps in this regard as well. Then for the drop balance, one of the things that was mentioned was that we all carry around very smartphones today, and even without knowing it, your phone is working for you, or maybe sometimes against you. So what we've done is we've sent, we usually send out what we call Do You Know series to our customers. So these are information-based messages that educate the customer sometimes about the behavior of the handsets that they have. Since we are privileged to also know the kind of handsets some of our customers use, because we get the information from the feedback we get from them. So this has helped a lot in managing some of these issues on our side. In addition to this, the people who actually report about drop balances, the process for reversals, I think we were beaten up a couple of months back over the delay in the processes, and I'm sure if a couple of the customers who have experienced such things in the recent past, they will confirm that the time has actually been greatly shortened. The refund processes, the time has greatly reduced. For the unapproved adverts, Airtel does not do unapproved promos.
Okay, I'll start off with the unsolicited SMS. I think we all have common problems or issues in this regard across all networks. And what we've done to address that issue very recently is to implement a blacklist function. So basically, customer either walks into our store, accesses one of our social media channels, or calls into the call center complaining about unsolicited SMSs, we are able to put them on a blacklist so that they never receive those messages again, if that is their wish. So that's been implemented. With regard to drop balances, I've mentioned earlier on that we have some common problems in terms of the root cause. Sometimes it's not just about the applications that are running in the background. Sometimes also the consumers themselves, for instance, if they have maybe subscribed to a data bundle, and that data bundle has an auto-renewal feature, right? When it gets to the anniversary for that renewal to take place, the consumer may have forgotten that they had an auto-renewal feature. They had bought a bundle previously. And when they load credit onto the phone, the deduction automatically kicks in. You've forgotten that you had bought a bundle. And then your credit automatically disappears because the amount for subscription for that bundle has been deducted. So we have a lot of those type of cases. And immediately we verify those claims. Our frontline agents, whether it's in the shops or in our call centers, are empowered to immediately apply a refund. So we have no issues with applying refunds as long as that claim can be verified, and in most cases we're able to verify that. Unlawful activation of value-added services. This is a bit of a tricky one because we've had several complaints from consumers of subscription services that they did not subscribe to. And in some cases, when we remove that feature from their lines, from their accounts, it's activated again. So we've picked up on some of these practices by the content providers. On our side, what we've done is drawn up a very strict code of conduct. And when we pick up multiple infractions by the same service provider, we immediately suspend them from providing services to the public. And we're getting even more stricter with those things. So we're not allowing for too many errors anymore because the complaints are quite numerous. And it might just be one violation that gets you suspended from carrying out that service. So that's fully in motion. Dropped calls. Currently, dropped calls are very low on our network. I believe the NCC benchmark for dropped calls is 1%. And going by the last figures that we have, we're currently sitting at 0.5%. for drop calls. Inability to access the call center. We have recently between July this year and now, increased accessibility to our call center by over 50%. And, we've introduced some new technology. We've expanded on our self-service capabilities to the customer, so they're now able to do a lot more for themselves. We're also focusing on the reasons why they need to call us in the first place, and just trying to make sure that those reasons go away. We want you to call us less because you have less problems. So in terms of the standard of service that we deliver at the call centers now, 80% of the calls that come into our call centers are actually answered within 20 seconds. So we currently do not have an accessibility challenge with our call centers. I think that's the last issue. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to invite the Director, Consumer Affairs Bureau, Mrs. Mariam Bayi. And she'll be making a presentation on data service delivery, the way forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, the topic for discussion today actually is data service delivery, the way forward. Data service may be defined as the distribution of internet service on demand to the user, regardless of geographic or organizational separation. In essence, what we're saying is data is stored in the cloud at a particular geographic location, at a single point where it can be accessed by a wide range of users on a wide range of devices. It is also the ability of the network operators to provide data services to consumers on demand. The importance of data service to global technological revolution and contribution to national economic and social development cannot be overemphasized. What we mean here is this. Right now in Nigeria, as we are copying from other developing world, we are going on all our transactions. We have e-banking, we have e-commerce, e-medicine, e-learning, and with the hope that NCC and the Nigerian government will continue the efforts on broadband deployment, it is our wish that every Nigerian will be able to access data and to make all their business transactions on the net. Data services are able to eliminate redundancy and streamline costs. This is because critical data is housed in one location, enabling data to be accessed or updated by multiple users, as I earlier mentioned. It is speedy. You can get across to anybody from any part of the world in a minute, in a second. Information gets across very easily. It can go in volumes. And it has helped and is helping the developing world to achieve growth and development in their various nations. Although data services has many advantages, it has potential drawbacks. These include server downtime from data service providers, data loss in the event of a disaster, inadequate security of the data both in its stored location and transmission among users. These are some of the things that we'll be discussing today, as my boss in the area mentioned. There are a lot of problems we're encountering, and consumers have brought this to our knowledge, of which we are also consumers. Sometimes in transmission, you find that you cannot complete transmitting your message or the data, and sometimes you find that you cannot even connect because it keeps saying connecting, and you never get to connect. And sometimes we have found that our consumers have reported to us that they will subscribe for a bundle, and before the end of the expiration time, that bundle is up. For instance, a report came to us in the office that they were asked by one of the service providers to buy 1 gig for 3,500 to last them a month, without even using streaming videos or downloading images or going on the YouTube. They said they were using ordinary chats, and that thing expired in 1 week. Consumers were not compensated for that. There wasn't a rollover. These are some of the issues that have come up in some of our visits outside our domain. As it is widely known, NCC not only regulates but also advocates for the consumers. It is in this line that the Commission set up various channels to provide avenue for dissatisfied consumers to lodge their complaints. We have tried, and we are still trying. NCC has been reaching out in various forms, not only through our programs that we go to the various locations, to the grassroots, through the consumer town hall meeting. We go to local areas, we meet rulers, we meet traditional rulers, we meet the elders there, and we have decided and we have brought some innovation because we carry along our staff that can speak the local language. And these avenues also include the toll-free line that we have in Abuja and Lagos, 622. We also have a consumer web portal, www.ncc.gov.ng/consumers. I didn't need to refer to my organ at the top. Facebook, and you can also follow us on Twitter. We have pamphlets that have been translated into 3 major Nigerian languages, which we distribute at all our events. We are doing as much as possible with the advocacy groups also to get through to people. We have a list of people we want to meet. We were in Aba, as I mentioned some time ago. We met the traders in Aba. It is interesting to note how they feel that we have shown them we care. Initially, we used to just assemble in a hall and invite them, but we have decided to go to them. We're visiting motor mechanics, transporters, cobblers, fishmongers, farmers, because these are all users of our service, of your service, and they need to be paid attention to. And some of the members of the service providers that have gone with us to these outings have seen and heard first-hand experience what the consumers were talking about. Now, sourcing from our complaint management database, we have compiled the most prevalent consumer complaints for data service delivery. Aside from our outings, we know we have an automated system between us and the service providers where when a consumer dumps a complaint, lodges a complaint with the service providers, it is automatically dumped on our system and we receive the number of complaints on our system. Based on that, we're able to see the prevalent complaints from consumers. Even though it's not every consumer that goes and complains, but at least we know that quite a large number do complain, and the service providers record their complaints and give them tickets. We're still not going to relent in our efforts. We're going to continue to create awareness so that a lot of the consumers can know that they can actually lodge their complaints. In Sokoto, somebody asked us a question that we don't know where to go when we want to complain. We now told them that NCC had mandated that all service providers should open a customer care center in 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, all in the cities, and the next most populous city. And they have complied. Every service provider so far has customer care centers in the 36 capital cities. What we want them to do is to also provide such in the next most populous city in those states. We have been hammering on it that you make your customer helplines workable. They should be active. And we have desk officers who are monitoring this in the office. They will call at random to these numbers to see if anybody is picking it up. And we have found out that yes, sometimes you find people who pick it up immediately. Sometimes you're put on the IVR for long until you get bored and you let go. And then these experiences are all recorded by us, and we are trying to see how to deal with it. We have visited some of your customer care centers and discussed with them. We've been to Glow. We have seen how they're operating. We've gone to Visa Phone. We are going to MTN to see how they're doing. But we give random, and we have sent our monitoring team to all the customer care centers. We found out that some of them did not really have customer care centers as we stipulated. They had kiosks, and we had since written them to do something about it, and we saw that they did do something about it. Now, what our Telecom Consumer Parliament, the packaging has done to us now is the feedback. When we went to Zaria and collected all their complaints, we came back and wrote to the service providers. And we had been monitoring to see that they have resolved each and every complaint that we sent forward to them. As we explained, the inability to browse is actually that the user may want to send some information and he will see this edge on the device. However, it keeps saying connecting, and you never get to send that particular information. That complaint has been prevalent. It has come to our office. A lot of people have called to say this is what is happening. They are very angry about the fact that they don't roll over their credits, when they have subscribed for a particular bundle. And then they realize that probably they only chatted throughout. They have not downloaded any music or streamlined any video, and then they find their credit has been depleted. These are some of the things that are prevalent, and we have seen amongst others, not that there aren't other problems, but these are the constant complaints that come in. And then unsuccessful data renewal. At this instance, consumers have purchased data, their transaction has been confirmed, and monies have been debited. However, the data renewal fails, and there is no active data bundle. Why does this happen? We hope that at the end of this day, we will be able to know some of these questions. The service providers will be able to provide answers for us. Is the consumer then compensated for failure on your part to execute the transaction? Well, from our experiences, they told us they're not being compensated. Whether it's true or false, we'll get to know today. Unauthorized service renewal. This is a situation where a consumer's voice credit is billed on expiration of data bundle without a consumer's authorization, thus resulting in dropped balance. So why not give consumers the right to choose, instead of you forcing them to go into something that they have not opted for? In conclusion, consumer satisfaction is key to sustainable telecommunications industry. This is a fact that we all agree. Without consumers, there will be no business. There will be no job for anybody, no service provider at all. So it is very important that we give them efficient and effective data service, which is paramount to the implementation and penetration of broadband in Nigeria today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
For smart communications, what we've given to our customer, we've given them the ability and the tools to manage their account. We have what's called My Smile. You log in and then you could actually buy data and manage. You have like a wallet. You could actually buy data and manage. You buy bundles and manage how you use it. So what we have is the customer is empowered. You manage your data, you manage your usage, and you can monitor how it is depleted. We have what we call technical support that come and explain how your data was actually used, the site you visited, the amount of data that was consumed by each site. And if you think that you've not visited those sites, we investigate. And where we find out there are challenges, we deal with those challenges. So the most important thing is to give the customer, then we have the bundles from the 5 MB to 400 MB. And then we have a 24 hours call center where our agents are there to help you and with the activation. And where we have what's called the field sales representatives, where you find out that there are issues, even network issues. You call the field sales representatives, and on their own, we've given them wallets. So they can actually, on their own, recharge and renew for you. For unauthorized service renewal, this does not really apply to us because when our system has been configured in such a way that when your service is depleted, or your bundle is depleted, or the service period for which you've contracted is depleted, it does not renew without your authorization. So I think I believe that covers all. Except there are other questions.
You claim that your service is 4G. How true is that? The EVC referred to that in his remarks.
I'm sure the EVC...
He said some people claim that they give us 4G.
Yes, but we know of a certainty that we are 4G LTE. Our spectrum is on 800. It's accepted worldwide, and it's incontrovertible.
Thank you. It is a lot.
Inability to browse. I think this may have to do with, this is purely coverage-related issues. Sometimes at your location, the signaling is stronger in one area than the other. On our part, we recognize that coverage is still a challenge, not making excuses for the fact that we are actually the last operator to enter this market, so rollout isn't as expansive as with the other operators, but we're working really hard on our expansion plans, especially for 3G, because 3G obviously gives you a better data experience all around. Abnormal depletion of data. I think I've touched on this before. There's the issue of the background applications that are running on your system. And then there's also the issue, what is termed as abnormal by the customer is, sometimes they forget that they've made a subscription to a bundle. And then they recharge, hoping to just use that airtime for normal voice transactions, and then the data is depleted because the auto-renewal feature is still in place. So what we're doing is, educating customers, a lot more about the need to unsubscribe from services if they do not require it anymore. But in most cases, we do apply refunds. We're not stingy about applying refunds when it's deserved. Unsuccessful data renewal and sometimes we do have some delays with provisioning. So a customer tries to subscribe to a data service. Money obviously goes out of his account, and he can't browse or she can't browse. It does not necessarily mean that service will not be activated. There might be a delay, or there might just be a total error with the system. It just didn't register. Luckily, we have the systems that are able to track end-to-end what the customer has done, whether that transaction has actually taken place. And when they complain to us, we're able to either apply a refund or activate that service on the back end on behalf of the customer. Unauthorized service renewal. This can also be tied to what I had explained before about the subscriptions. Yeah, so we have to educate people about unsubscribing first, because that could be what's generating a lot of those complaints. But what we're also doing beyond that is we're giving customers the ability to choose. So typically when a customer purchases a bundle, the bundle runs out. What normally happens thereafter is that you would go into a pay-as-you-go session if you do not want to purchase an additional bundle. So we're presenting customers with that alert. First of all, we will give you notifications at different thresholds. When your subscription reaches 100 MB, 50 MB, and 10 MB, you will get a notification on your device. Beyond that, when you have run out of data completely, you will get a pop-up on your screen asking you whether you want to purchase another bundle or if you would like to just continue browsing at a pay-as-you-go rate. So those are some of the things that we've implemented to try and manage the customer's experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Airtel?
Good afternoon once again. For inability to browse, like had been mentioned, this is the connectivity is solely dependent on the availability of the network, signaling, and we understand that everywhere is not covered the same way. There are places where we are better covered than the other places. And as a business, we understand that if our customers are not able to browse, if they're not able to use our network, then we don't even make money. And if we're not in a place where the competition is, we also lose our customers. So we also understand that it's in our best interest to be everywhere. Thankfully, there are some changes that are happening in the industry, which we hope will level the playground for the expansion of the network, which we also hope to latch onto, and in order to expand our network as much as possible. Because we understand that customer experience is key for us. For abnormal depletion of data, in addition to the explanations that we gave about the way some of our devices behave today, we have a notification on our network, which threshold notification, which tells you at different points where you are on with your data bundle or with your data service. So when you get to 50% of your available credit, it notifies you 75%, 90% before you get into the totally depleting your data. And one of the things that has also been highlighted is we also know that issues occur about whether customers got value for money for the data we offered. So we've worked a whole lot in improving the process of giving back to customers when we realize that they have not been duly given the benefit of the service that we were supposed to give them. For unsuccessful data renewal, like Plato mentioned, before you even get activated, there's a provisioning process that happens. And in as much as we would like it to be 100% all the time, we realize that errors occur, failures occur. And so we've put in processes to manage this. One of the things we've done is that from our own end, with the help of our IT people, we have automated sessions that run to pick up failures. But moving forward from here, when a customer's funds have been deducted for services that have not been given to the customer, there are two things we do. We revert back to the customer to explain the reason why the failure occurred. And then we also find out from them whether they would like the service to be given to them or to get their money back. So this is one of the things that we've put in place to cater for these unsuccessful service renewals. For unauthorized service renewals, there are two options for services. One is the one that ends at every month. They're the ones that renew automatically at the anniversary. So customers have the choice of renewing their services, whether it's a VERS service or whether it's just a regular data bundle, either to run for 1 month or to get it to renew at the end of the anniversary of the service. So we actually give customers the right to choose. And like I said, in situations where we find out, especially with our third party, with our partners who also offer services on our network, when we find out that there are some things that are done on our network that is inimical to the experience of the customer, we also punish the partners for that. But on our own side, once we find out that a service has been renewed without the customer's consent, we provide a refund for this. Thank you.
The inability to browse. Well, I want to say that this issue, if we watch, has been drastically reduced on Globalcom network of recent, because more and more 3G sites are coming up. We are providing better bandwidth as we connect most of our sites with fiber rather than microwave radio. But definitely there will be one each or the other because of some technical problems such as fiber cut, where you have to move back to microwave. So such thing can reduce the speed, but I don't think it will totally be off. So I can say that in most of the in most locations, especially like urban areas, this issue of inability to browse has reduced. But we are working hard to make it better. On the abnormal depletion of data, well, this issue, I say again, that there's need to know what you are using your data. A lot of people carry phones, and before they know it, they see that because you use data to update some of the services. But in a situation where we feel that such thing happen in a error, we try as much as possible to pay back. But it's not common, I can say. On the unsuccessful data renewal, I think we have introduced USSD, I think 123 if I'm not mistaken, where you can automatically renew your data. We have sent messages to all our subscribers that, look, this is how you can renew your data. So this has reduced because we have less calling on this data renewal. On authorized service renewal, well, first of all, we send you a text message as whether you want to renew. I think this is only applicable to auto renewal. So we send you text message that your data is 80%, and once it is your anniversary date, we inform you. So if you don't opt in, we don't renew. So that is what I have for that. Thank you.
And lastly, MTN.
We have issues often with inability for subscribers to browse. I think my colleagues have spoken about most of the underlying issues, but I think it's important that we also mention that one big thing that we're seeing now is that to enjoy a good browsing experience, you need a good telephone. A lot of the handsets that are coming in, particularly the gray market handsets, are contributing to the poor experience that people are having. It's important that as an industry, we're able to address the issues of affordability, which hopefully if people are able to afford proper phones, then we will see an improvement in the quality of their browsing. I think recently we saw the recent directive by the Central Bank of Nigeria banning certain transactions, and telecommunications equipment, ICT infrastructure were part of on the list of things that you can't go directly to buy FX from the central bank. And the impact is that going to the interbank is going to add a 6 or 7% increase to the prices of devices, etc. So I think that again is going to work against the broadband objectives that we all have. Inability to browse again is also a function of geography. There isn't, as much as we talk about having an ubiquitous broadband or data coverage across Nigeria, we're still far from it. So your experience will change depending on where you are located. As we see more and more penetration of 3G, we will see an improvement. But even with all the investment in 3G, the reality in our markets today is that in terms of total subscribers on the network today, by I can say that, give or take, we probably have the odd 12 million 3G devices in the markets today. Now, the problem is that with all the investment in 3G, most of the phones in Nigeria are feature phones and are unable to enjoy the better 3G experience offered. So again, as operators and as an industry, I think if we work better at making those handsets available, we will see a more improved browsing experience. I think the questions around abnormal depletion of data, this has been discussed extensively. Again, I think all of us have said that one of the major issues is the amount of data we're consuming without knowing we're consuming data. more and more devices today, as people are buying new televisions, all those things are consuming data. A lot of us are wearing what they call pedometers. They monitor how you exercise, they monitor how you sleep. So even while you're sleeping, you're consuming data. You think that, well, I've slept all night, I haven't done anything, and my data bundle has gone down. But there's so many things that we're doing that are beginning to impact our data bundles. We've spoken about unsuccessful data renewal. I think also that one thing that we have done to address this problem is to work in terms of educating our subscribers. We've introduced the *123#, and please, I'd invite everybody to try that if you're an MTN data customer. *123# is a USSD short code and takes you direct to a portal where you can manage your data services. It helps in terms of information, amount of data consumed, renewal terms, etc., etc. As an organization, even without prompting from our regulator, we have gone about simplifying the process for reimbursing customers. But over and beyond that, I think I say with every sense of responsibility, that we were the first operator to go beyond just restitution, but to also compensate for inconvenience. If you have a problem or you've experienced, you've had a bad experience, we actually compensate. So we've gone the extra mile to make sure that our customers are happy. We've also spoken about the issues around unauthorized service renewal. Very often for a lot of operators is if your bundle expires and I start to charge you out of bundle rates, typically out of bundle rates are often a lot more expensive, and then you see that the customer is very, very unhappy. So it's a choice of balancing, well, look, let me renew and give you another bundle, or I let you browse out of bundle. Operators now tend to renew because, and when we say we tend to renew, it's to protect the customer, because if we want to make more money, it's the obvious choice is to let the customer browse out of bundle. But we find that, if you take that kind of money from your customer, it leads to a lot of customer dissatisfaction, and that's not the kind of business that we're trying to build. So we continue to give and make available information and tools to help our customers in terms of knowledge, know when your bundle is going to expire. I mentioned earlier that we now have credit rollover for bundles. So I think the example that was given much earlier, that has solved the problem. We allow you to carry that for 3 months. So even when your days are over, you continue to enjoy the internet that you've subscribed to. In closing, I think that it's important to note that as we make progress with the spectrum auctions that are proposed by the NCC and the federal government, we will have greater depth in terms of giving better services and greater broadband services. Thank you.
Thank you. Cobranet?
Mostly what affects us on inability to browse, as has been said earlier, is mostly related to network issues. And this, in designing our network, we make it more redundant and using multiple ways to connect our sites, both via fiber and microwave. So we have least downtimes on our base stations. On abnormal depletion of data, we put in place measures to notify customers on how they are using their data. We also have a lot of education on data usage to our customers. And though there are also sometimes issues which we normally take up with our providers in terms of the billing software and the rest, and we try to compensate our customers when issues like this arise. On unsuccessful data renewal, we do have these issues. It's not very common on our network, but it does happen, and it's mostly due to people who collaborate with, like the providers, the Interswitch, and the rest of them. But when this happens, we also compensate the customers for their inability to use. Sometimes the activation doesn't happen automatically as it should be. So what we try to do, we activate the customers for the time being until the issues are sorted out with the financial providers. On authorized service renewal, this does not apply to us, but what we do also, we have plans that can take customers, residential customers, for a long period of time, up to 6 months, on a particular discount rate. I think that's about it. Thank you.
My name is Ehi Ewuhime. I work for Diamond Bank. Just as other people have spoken to these issues, I think for us, the world is becoming a global village, and a lot of things we do in banking today depends on data. If you recall, the most recent one now is the unique identification that is being done for our customers. That has commenced, being sponsored by CBN as our own frontline regulator. You're going to have unique numbers for each customer. So what that means is that if you have 6 accounts, for instance, you're going to have one number. My name is Ehi. You will always be Ehi. So I can't go to UBA and say, I am now Frederick. All that is going to be riding on the back of a very strong data or a very strong broadband, because you need to transmit this figure. And when you do these fingerprints, you do unique identification of a particular person, you will need to go into a database to match. Is this Ehi or not? This is Ehi. All that is going to depend on data. But in terms of experience, I think we have improved significantly, because I remember 15 years ago, you need to do dial-up to connect to a bank in my village. You need to do a dial-up to do, when sometimes they tell you the system is down. The system is hardly up. Like at 16, 15 years ago, you need to have a backup. You need to print statements every day for every account, just in case the system goes down. But these days, that hardly happens now, and you see customer complain bitterly now when the system is down for a few minutes. But to a considerable extent, I think NCC, the telecom provider, the broadband provider have done well, considering where we are coming from. I use their service personally, and as a bank, we use their service as well. I think to a considerable extent, there is room for improvement. That will always exist. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We've had a long day, and I think it will be in order for me to now invite the Director, Consumer Affairs Bureau, for a roundup, a wrap-up of all that we have discussed this day. Hajia Mariambai.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, from the discussions that we had this afternoon on data service delivery, I made a few notes. One of the things that were mentioned by some of the service providers is signal failure. When they came to talk about browsing, inability to browse, some of them mentioned that because of lack of coverage in some certain areas, there's signal failure, and consumers sometimes find it very difficult to connect, to browse. What I will appeal in this case is that we should observe between the NCC and the service providers as well, the area that is prevalent and persistent complaints on signal failure, so that they can go back and see how they can avert this situation. Possibly they can come together if it is something that they need to do together. Is it a fiber cut? What exactly is the problem? And on auto renewal, I think the contract, I'll call it a contract, between the consumer and the service provider should be very clear. Because if you're opting into a bundle, you're subscribing to a bundle and you do not know that it has auto renewal, then there's a big problem. So maybe in that area, you make it very clear to your consumers that they're subscribing to a bundle that has an auto renewal, so that they do not start having credit data depletion because of that particular kind of relationship, the contract. And then another issue Though some service providers mentioned that they do have rollover data services, we believe that there's still room to look into that area. Consumers should have value for money. If you know you have paid 8,000 naira perhaps to get maybe about 4 gigs, you should be able to get value for 4 gigs, not anything less than that. So please look into the issue of rollover. And then if somebody wants to renew, it shouldn't be just one option, the automated one. Let a consumer be able to renew on different platforms. If I cannot get this working because there is no signal, let me be able to either send an SMS or call and say I'm trying to renew. Provide various options of renewal for your consumers. And then we need creation of awareness. It was mentioned that there are some certain phones that we consumers use that affect the kind of service we receive. Probably you want to get 3G and then you begin to get 2G services. If there are such phones, continue to give us education. Create that awareness so that people do not just go out and buy smartphones or posh phones because they want to hold such phones if they are not useful to them. It will help the consumers and it will also help you, the service providers. Generally, what I just wanted to appeal to service providers is this, that despite what we're doing, to improve services, we should ensure that they're actually improved. It is not just good enough to say we have done this, then this, as I have said. Bring evidence of what you have done. You should compensate consumers that have complained. When you find out on your own that something is wrong, and even before the consumer complains, it is showing on your system. You can compensate them. And then please give notification for downtime. Well, such that our service providers will not think that the session is all about bashing. We have to just tell you that we do appreciate the efforts that you are making, and that we've been told in our outing in ITU that Nigeria came first 5 times in a row because of growth and development of telecommunication services. A populous country like Nigeria with over 160 million, we're proudly saying that we have over 133 million active lines. It is because you did something. So we are not totally condemning you, but we are saying while you're counting your dollars, count our frustrations too. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's Parliament, and all I have to do now is invite Dr. Femi Atoyebi for the vote of thanks.
Thank you. Well, to God be the glory. Give glory to God for the success of this outing. And I would like to appreciate the board, the executive vice chairman, the board of NCC, the management staff of NCC, the regulators that are present here, NLRC, CPC, and I think APCON too, and our service providers, the press, and in fact everyone here that has made one contribution or the other. It is to make consumers in Nigeria get better service. And we have to appreciate each and every one of us here. Please let us appreciate one another by clapping for one another. I want to wish each and every one of us here journey masses back to our destination. Thank you very much.